How's it going, folks? It is me again, Rosendo from MLH. I am glad to have you here with us. Global Hack Week open source has been steaming right along all day. For the folks that have been joining us all day, really, like, kudos to you. You get extra points, you get extra points, and you get extra points. Big shout out to everyone that's in the chat right now. Definitely let us know where you're from. What's keeping you up so late? Is it Global Hack Week open source? Is it Friday afternoon? Is it Friday morning? Where is it for you? Just let us know. Outside of that, we've got a great workshop in store for you. If you're unfamiliar with it, the product is called Defang. It is a great way for folks to get in and actually like deploy projects, deploy any type of project using containers. We're going to get more into that at a later point in time. Obviously, if you have questions throughout the workshop, you're going to want to drop them into the chat. We're going to be going through and kind of checking everything out. Oh, that's pretty cool. 5 p.m. in CT. It is 6 p.m. where I'm at currently in New York. We've got someone 1 a.m. in Egypt. This is amazing. 4 p.m. in Colorado. We've got a bunch of troopers out here. Really appreciate it. Really excited to get this workshop kicked off. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Raf from Defang to get y'all started. How's it going, Raf?
Hey, it's going all right. How are you doing, Rosendo?
I am good. All right. Well, hope y'all have some fun. I'm going to leave you to it. I'll be in the backstage if you need me.
Sweet. Awesome. Hey, folks. I'm Raf from Defang. I do a variety of stuff with Defang. And today I'm going to show you how to get stuff deployed to the internet so that you can not just for your next hackathon, you don't just have something running on localhost, but you actually have something that you can share with a URL in the cloud. Sweet. Okay, so I am going to share my screen, and we will get going. And at any time, if anyone has any questions, just let me know and we can pause and we can make sure that everyone's on the same page. Yeah, so just let me know. Cool. So entry-level workshop. So this is for people who are just getting started. We will get you off the ground and deploying nice and fast. So why should you deploy? It's more fun, right? Because if you can actually deploy your projects, then other people can actually use them. It's not just on localhost. It's going to be, it's going to be up and running on the internet for other people to play with. Also, if you get started from the beginning deploying your stuff, it's a lot easier than like being super focused on localhost and running things locally, and then eventually trying to figure out, you've built something super complicated locally, and now you have to figure out how to make all of those things work in the cloud. So yeah, it's just nice if you can start from the beginning. And it's also kind of cool if you can set up domains and have your stuff on brand, and actually kind of launch like a full-fledged product instead of just like a little hobby. Hey, Shimmery. We can cover some issues later on if we have time. So yeah, first thing we're gonna do. So just the easiest, like simplest way to get up and running with Defang is we're gonna go to defang.io. So over here, you'll see a few different things, but I'm going to ask you to click on this samples button, which should just scroll you down to the bottom, and just search for next. And then you'll see there's a few different things here, but the one that we're going to use today is just this one that says Next.js, says a basic Next.js app. And yeah. So once you're in there, just click this one-click deploy button. Now I'm gonna do one other thing first, which is I'm going to make this as similar to you as possible. So I'm gonna log out of my Defang portal, and then I'm gonna click this one-click deploy button. So if you haven't used Defang before, that is going to send you here to this, this login screen. You just click on that, and it'll redirect you here. Now, the reason we do that is we need to make sure that you have a Defang account before you clone this repo so that we can deploy it for you. Cool. So I'm just going to choose a name here. I'm going to do Next.js Demo 2. And I'm going to hit Create Repository. So basically what this is it's just got a basic Next.js app ready to go for you with a few other things that we can kind of talk about later. So immediately, as soon as you click that button, you'll see that we kick off this GitHub action. And that, if we start looking here, Defang is immediately going to start deploying your project. So right off the bat, if you go to the Defang portal, which you'll see a handy little link here, you can click that, and you'll see that it is deploying. So it'll take well, you can see these logs show that it's already kind of up and running, but we'll just wait here. We'll see that there's this, it's actually running a build. I think I had a previous version deployed already, which is why it said that it was already up and running. But yeah, in a few seconds here, or maybe a minute, we should have an actual Next.js app up and running with a URL that we can share and ready for us to update and build some cool stuff on. Has anyone had any issues so far? We all good? We're all on the same page? Just checking the chat. All good? Silence is golden, indeed. Sweet. All right. So what it's doing in the background is it's taking these files and it's basically building what you need in production. It's looking at this compose file, which we'll talk about more later. It's got this Docker file. It's sort of taking all of these things, packaging them up, deploying them to AWS. Right now we're using, yes, it is using Docker. So right now, this is what we call the Defang playground. So this is free to use. You can deploy whatever you want in here. There are some limitations. So don't think of it as like production ready and you're going to launch your next billion-dollar company with the playground. But it is a great place to test out stuff, to get stuff deployed. And then later on, you can actually use kind of the same workflow to deploy to your own AWS account. And so we'll talk about that maybe in another. Yeah, exactly, Shemery. BYOC, bring your own cloud. So yeah, now you can see this thing is almost good to go. Deployment in progress. That means that it's got it up and running, but it just wants to run some checks to make sure that our app is actually alive and good to go. So it just wants to run a few of those checks for a little bit. And then once it's consistently checked that it's up and running, then it will mark it green like this. So now you can head over to this URL and you can see my app up and running. Oops. Oh yeah, I can't share that. Got to share here. But yeah, basically that is how easy it is to get things deployed to the cloud with Defang. Yeah. Cool. Has anyone, does it work with other cloud services like Google Cloud, etc.? So Actually, we have a pretty cool announcement coming up in this next sort of week or so. It's pretty much wrapped up, but we've got like a preview, a public preview of DigitalOcean coming out soon. And so the idea is you should be able to take this sort of same app structure and say, yeah, I want to deploy this to AWS, or I want to deploy this to GCP or DigitalOcean or Azure. We're going to add other stuff down the line. For now, it's AWS. Next one is DigitalOcean. And we've got a couple spots where you can vote on if you want Azure next or GCP next or whatever other cloud you want. So yeah, that is the easiest way to get up and running with Defang. You just click that one-click deploy button on one of our samples, and literally in like 5 minutes, basically, you should have something deployed. So actually, before we tear down our project, I just want to show you something else that's really neat about this workflow. So let's say you've cloned this and you're good to go, and you just want to, like what you want to change. Maybe you don't have like major changes that you want to make. Let's say we want to change this to say something else. I don't know if you all know this feature, but in GitHub, you can actually just switch out github.com for github.dev. And it actually turns into like a little code editor online. That looks, yeah, basically it's like VS Code. You don't have a terminal, but you can say, my super cool MLH project. And update page. It's being a little wonky. Yeah. So if you want to update anything and you don't want to like spin up or you don't want to open VS Code or you don't want to clone something that's not on your current machine, you can kind of have access to sort of like a mini version of VS Code in your browser. That's kind of neat. You can't connect to defang.io. Oh no. Why? What's happening when you go to defang.io? Young Hyun Lee 22. Is it throwing an error or what's it says like 404? The site can't be reached. And that is, let me just double check. So it's defang.io like that. Message. The site can't be reached. Very strange. Is anyone else having trouble reaching our website when you go to defang.io, https:// no www. Though I think we do redirect. Yeah, so www does redirect, but oh no, AT&T. So you saw that I just edited the code online. And what's kind of neat is it will automatically run a deployment. So whenever you commit, like if you start with a sample, one of our samples, one of the things that's really cool is any commit you push afterwards will immediately start deploying that version. And so you can see here, it says build running. That actually doesn't mean that your current app is down. So it actually is still up and running. It just means that that current deployment is building. So it's like at that first stage. So your app will keep up and running until the next version has built, and then it will it'll be replaced with the new version. So here we're in that yellow mode. And once it's determined that everything is A-okay with that new one, we should be good to go. Does anyone Does anyone have a URL to share? Did you all also try to deploy this? Also, who here has built with Next.js before? No one. All right, cool. Well, MLH has. Woo! Sweet. Okay. The limitations. Okay, so the limitations in this sort of like free environment is that I need to double check exactly what the limitations are, but I think we shut down your service after like 7 days or something like that, or a few days of inactivity. So yeah, basically you can't keep things sort of up and running indefinitely. It is definitely more of like a place to like test things out. Yeah, if you all have stuff that you just deployed, feel free to share your URLs. It'd be cool to see what you all are building. So that's the main limitation, is that essentially we'll shut your stuff down after a few days of inactivity. If you keep deploying, I need to double check this, but if you keep deploying new stuff, it should stay up and running. All right, so cool. After a couple minutes, there we go. My super cool MLH project. So it'll deploy automatically anytime you build something new. Sweet. So that is the nice and easy way to get started with Defang. We're going to now poke around a little bit at something a little bit more complicated. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to install the Defang CLI. So if you head to the Defang homepage, you'll see that we have this section here, which gives you instructions on how to install and get started with a project in one command. So, I'll choose the one that makes the most sense for me. So I'm gonna click this shell one. If you're on Mac or Linux, the shell command should work. If you're on Windows, the shell command should work if you're using WSL. I know that I think most modern Windows machines do come with winget installed. If you have an older version of Windows, that might not work for you. But yeah, basically modern versions of Windows should have winget. If you're hardcore, which I'm not, you could use Nix. If you're on a Mac, you could also use brew. So I'm going to use the shell command. So I'm going to go here into VS Code. And you know what? I'm actually going to remove these last couple lines. Oh, also for those of you, I'm going to make the assumption that we all know what a terminal is. If you don't, it's a good thing to get comfortable with. If you open VS Code, head to terminal, you can run all kinds of commands in there. I did run a workshop recently where some people weren't aware. So yeah. So now I've got Defang installed. I can do Defang version. And so you should see the latest version there. I'm going to do Defang login. Actually, I'm not going to do Defang login because I'm already logged in and it's going to open up some other stuff. But you should do Defang login. And you should then be able to do stuff like Defang ls, which will show you the currently up and running stuff that you got. Now, you asked about the limitations. One of the other limitations with the sort of free playground version of Defang is that you can only deploy one project. So you can actually have up to, I think it's 5 services in that project. but only one project. So to run through the rest of the demo, we're going to do defang ls. Then we're going to grab this project name. We're going to do defang compose project name equals that, and then down. And you can actually do Control C because that will run in the background. And actually not in the background, in the cloud. So nothing's running on your computer. And now if I do defang ls, it's destroyed that project. And that is because we are going to start a project from scratch now. So we've got a pretty neat AI feature that you can use to get your own project up and running. ZS0707. Out of curiosity, what's that O about? Was it about the number of projects and services, or were you not expecting to destroy that project just yet? Well, oh yeah, one project. Yeah, at the moment we've got to keep it down to one project. But like I said, you can have multiple services. So you could have like a project that's got like a worker, a front end, an API. Like, you could have like 4 or 5 different things that are part of that project. So you can build something pretty complex, but they all have to be sort of grouped together. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second here. So the next thing we're going to look at is we've got this defang generate command. And so it's a pretty neat AI feature. And if you run defang generate, you can choose the language that you want to work with. Today we're going to do Node.js. And you'll see here that you can actually deploy any of our samples this way. Also, anyone, if you're having trouble installing the CLI, slow me down, let me know. I'm keeping a close eye on the comments, so just if anything is not going right with the installation process, shoot me a message and we will help you solve that. But yeah, basically you can search through any of our samples, or you can see there's this option at the top, generate with AI. So you can use this to just kind of describe what kind of thing you want to build. So for the sake of this sample, I'm going to just copy this prompt that I already have and I know works, because AI can be a little fickle. These large language models are not always consistent. But this prompt is pretty well tested. So I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to call this meme generator. Cool. So it will then create that folder, and you'll see that it's got 4 things in there. We talked earlier a little bit about what the structure of a project looks like. So has everyone here used Docker in the past, or have you at least heard of Docker? Yes, no, maybe. Sent you a message on active deployment trigger prod alert because of a bug of mine. Please try again. Okay. Sweet. Okay, so people have heard of Docker or used Docker. Okay. Or yeah, heard of it, have it installed, never used it. Cool. So Docker has this, there's this spec called the compose spec. That is it used to be Docker Compose. Now it's kind of more of an open specification to define services that are run as containers. And so here you'll see that what Defang generates is this compose file that's got one service that is built using this one Docker file. And that Docker file loads up this main.js file, which is using a couple dependencies, which are defined by this package.json file. So if you're used to building Node apps, you should be all good. ZS0707, yes, the AI created all of this, but with the caveat that, like, you know, we've set up the AI to build this on our sort of templated system, or our trained system. But yeah, basically you can write in kind of whatever you want, and it might give you a pretty good starting point. You know, it's not going to give you like a full-fledged like app with, you know, dozens of files and different libraries and stuff like that, but it can give you something pretty solid. Yeah. So one of the things that we know about this sample is that it tends to generate a file like this that includes these two things that are not used. So I'm just going to get rid of those. And we're going to get rid of them here because they are not necessary. So now I am going to run, first I'm going to demo something. I don't know if you all have Docker installed or not, but basically we can run Docker compose up. And Docker is, you know, it's pretty common. It's a nice way of packaging your applications. And if I go to localhost 3000, I've got this thing up and running. So it generated something that I can run with Docker, and it works. Now, the thing is, you'll likely come across Docker more and more often as you start deploying more and more stuff to the cloud. So what's really cool is a lot of these Docker commands, you can just kind of switch that out with Defang. So we're going to take that Docker compose command, which gave us something running on localhost, do Defang compose up, and is basically going to give us the same thing for the cloud. So really what we're trying to give you is like this really cool way of saying like, okay, we've got these common dev tools to build and run something locally. But what if you want to do like the cloud-based scalable version of that? It shouldn't be as complicated as it is these days. Like right now, you'll hear about people talking about things like Terraform and Pulumi and the AWS like CDK and all of these tools that are really complicated and annoying, and a lot of the time like unnecessarily so. But you already know how to run these things locally, or you will come across these tools like Docker to run this locally. And it should be that easy. You should be able to just switch from Docker compose up to Defang compose up and get something running in the cloud. So this thing is now getting up and running. And we will go check out the portal again. You click on projects and you'll see that this is deploying. So let's talk a little bit while it deploys about this these limitations. So the way that we conceive of a project in Defang is basically a compose file inside a folder. So you'll see that the folder I'm in is called meme generator. So the project here is called meme generator. Within that, we have this service called service1. And that service is defined by this Docker file with the main.js and the package JSON and all of that. So this is one service. But you could imagine like maybe this is your API, right? So maybe you want to add another service later on that's, I don't know, Next.js front end. And you could add another Docker file that deals with that. So you can add up to, I believe it's 5 different services all in here. So you could have an API, you could have multiple APIs, you could have different front ends, you could have all kinds of stuff up and running here. In the playground, the limitation is 5. But if you're deploying to your own AWS account, correct me if I'm wrong, Leo, but I believe there's no limit. Like you can deploy whatever you want. Sweet. All right. So we can see that after very little time, we now have something up and running here. So we've got our meme generator live on the internet. I'm gonna share this link here. I'm gonna remove this stuff. Just copy that. Nice, shimmery. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. All right. So there is my meme generator. So you can check that out. And if you have your own meme generator, share the links. Shem. All right, I'll call you Shem. Sweet. All righty. So that is how you can use our AI to deploy something. Nice and easy. You just kind of describe it. Take a look at the code to double check that it makes sense. If you are familiar with Docker, you can try running Docker Compose up. If you're not, just run Defang Compose up, and you should be good to go. So I want to show you one last thing that is pretty neat that we added a little while ago, which is we've got a few different like points in the development workflow that we think that AI could be most useful to you. So one is this like starting point, right? So we can give you something, a nice sort of AI interface to just describe a simple service, get it ready for you. You don't need to write that initial sort of code. It gives it to you. You just evaluate it, make sure it's right, and then you can keep building on it. But the other thing that happens a lot when you're deploying to the cloud, you know, things are complicated. AWS is complicated. Infrastructure is messy. So there are times where you're going to have something that, you know, isn't necessarily obvious in your code. In this case, I will make a somewhat obvious mistake. But you could think of configuration errors that aren't as obvious as like missing a curly brace. And if you do defang compose up, what we're going to do is we're going to keep track of what's going on in this deployment, right? So this is going to break. And that's sometimes really hard to figure out. In this particular case, yeah, it's a curly brace, and VS Code will tell me that it's wrong here. But maybe you're not using an IDE. Maybe you're using it, I don't know, something else, and you don't have that, and you deploy. Or maybe you've made a configuration error. Or maybe your package.json is missing something. And then those kinds of errors, especially the configuration errors, are a lot harder to keep track of and figure out. So one of the places that we thought we could be most useful to you with AI is we can have that context of like the files that are in your project and the logs from the cloud infrastructure, so from your AWS account, from our Playground account, we can sort of mash those together and figure out, okay, if a deployment is failing, we can then help you identify based off of that context what is going wrong in a way that might be a lot easier for an AI to parse than it would be for you to like read through hundreds of lines of code. So here we'll do a little demo and I'll show you how it works. But you can imagine in other contexts that it would be a lot more difficult, and having an LLM just built into your deployment process is going to be a lot easier. So you'll see here, as we run that command, it says, deployment failed. Would you like to debug the deployment with AI? So you just do yes, enter. And there's a syntax error in the main.js file. The try block is not properly enclosed with a function or method. This, and so here it gives you a suggestion and it adds that curly brace back for you. So basically that is how we can help you debug these deployments. So it'll also like look through this. In this particular case, it's a pretty simple one. But there are more complicated issues, especially when it comes to configuration, where you might need to look at the compose file, right? So maybe you're not used to dealing with Docker compose files or Docker files, and it'll sort of point out like, hey, maybe you need to add an extra line here to install a dependency, or maybe there's a missing environment variable here to make sure that you connect properly to your database, or all of that kind of stuff that can just be kind of like weird to debug in code. So yeah, we can then put that back in, and you'll see that our service is still, oh no, it's not up and running because I broke it. But if I run defang compose up, should be back up and running in a couple seconds or a minute. All right. Ooh, I think we were talking about doing custom domains tomorrow, but we could do that. I think we could do that. Can we do that? Do I have the time to improv this? We do have just over 20 minutes. How about we pause for a second, and you all can tell me if you have questions. Also send links if you deployed stuff. How are people doing the Defang CLI? Oh, that's Prakash. Cool. Oh, actually, with the Defang CLI thing, there's one other thing that I'm kind of curious about. Has anyone here used GitHub code spaces before? Because we have a feature that makes that a little more interesting too, but I don't know. I'm kind of curious to know if people actually would use it. Anyone? Shem? Steven? Yep. Okay, so you have used code spaces. Sweet. Okay, so Shem, thanks for the response. I'll show you something real quick. So this is not the case for every single sample we have yet, but you'll see that a lot of them come pre-configured with this dev container file. So it comes with the Defang CLI, it comes with Docker, it comes with the AWS CLI. So basically trying to package everything you need without having to install it on your local machine. So for Shem, but also for any of you who want to give this a shot, GitHub Codespaces is kind of like running a little development machine. It's like a laptop in the cloud, like a dev machine in the cloud. So you can click here, new with options, So default project configuration, you can spin up different sizes of machines, let's say 4-core, and create code space. Docker files are huge, can be huge. Like running Defang in my terminal, code spaces is cool too. Yeah. Yeah, and when you're building a lot of Docker stuff, yeah, it can take a lot of space. I personally am a big fan of tools like code spaces and dev containers. I like packaging up all of my dependencies in this nice little self-contained thing. I also find it's like easier to share those configurations with other developers. So if everyone uses code spaces or dev containers in VS Code, we won't talk about that because that's a bit more complicated if you're not familiar with it. But yeah, basically it's a nice way to make sure that everyone has the same tools in their environment. Okay. That may have been one of my issues earlier, Dockerfile in terminal. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It is nice also if you can just say like, yeah, all of my Docker stuff is sort of here in GitHub, and I can sort of throw it out, or it's not going to clutter my local environment. Okay. I'm going to hop over to my other screen here for a second, and I'm going to check out some domain stuff so that we can try that out, since there are no other questions for now. Okay. I just want to see what domain I have available to me. Profile, websites, accounts. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a domain. I'm actually gonna just use a subdomain. Or will I buy a domain? I could buy a domain. I feel like that's a thing that has been popular. So let's buy a domain. Feel free to share the URL if you deployed it to our playground. Yeah. It'd be awesome to see what you all are deploying. So let's do mlh defang.xyz. All right. $11. Whoop. Let me move away from that. There was a payment error. Why is there a payment error? Complete purchase. Huzzah, no more payment error. It's taking a second to go through. Cool. So I'm now the proud owner of mlhdefang.xyz. Cool. We're gonna go to DNS. Oh, there we go. Shem got something up and running. Here we go. To-do. Epic. Love it. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people are into Flask and Django. Out of curiosity, who here uses Flask or Django? You can just type that in the comments. Or what's your framework of choice, everyone? In part too, because I can, a lot of Python users. Sweet. We can get more Python samples up and running. We already have some Python stuff, some Django stuff, some Flask stuff. I think we've got a LangChain thing in there. But yeah, we could do some more Python stuff as well. Node.js, React.js, sweet. So yeah, you should be happy with, I assume with some Next.js should be good too. Awesome. Cool. Where? Analytics and logs websites. Cloudflare changed their UI. I can't find DNS. Websites. LH. Defang.xyz. Okay, there we go. This is weird. There's my DNS stuff. Okay, so I want my meme gen to run here. So I'm going to do domain name, and we're going to do mlh defang.xyz. Sweet. So now that I own this domain and I put this in here, I can do defang compose up, and we can let that deploy. Hey Leo, can I do the cert gen before the deployment completes? Or do I need to wait for that to deploy? I feel like I've always waited just because, but now I have this this question. You can, it will wait. Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's just hop in here and we can do defang cert generate. So now that we have this domain name in here, it's going to tell us what we need to do. So I am going to get my, I thought I had another window here. Where did my window go with, here we go. So it's telling me I need a CNAME that goes here. So I'm just going to go add record, CNAME at, and I don't know if we need that turned off, but I think we should keep it turned off. All right. Off. All right, yeah, that's fair. So, waiting for CNAME record setup and DNS propagation. Now, there's a little caveat. Oh, cool. ZS0707. Check it out. Most basic website ever. Hey, Z. Awesome. Love it. Sweet. It's exciting though, right? Like, I don't know. I think it's cool when you can get something up and running on the web instead of just running on localhost. Nice stuff. Z, did you, which, is this the one that you made with, like the AI, or did you modify one of the other samples, or yeah, how did you do it? Sweet. Awesome. Nice. That's cool. We actually just published that one not so long ago. Linda published that sample. So thanks to Linda. All right. So we are waiting for this to happen. Now, little caveat here, which is that, oh, we have another one. Okay, I'm just gonna check out all the projects. Task manager, new task. What's up? Cool. Awesome. So we'll wait for this. Waiting for CNAME record setup and DNS propagation. Okay, so the caveat here is that I have had some DNS caching issues on my machine a few times. I don't know if it's at the machine level or the network, or I don't know. But just gotta have that caveat there. So you can actually see if I had let the thing run, it would tell me after that this is available after we run defang cert generate to get a TLS certificate. It is running a little longer than I would expect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check back in on our code space. And from here, I'm going to just curl, oops. Could not resolve host. lhdfang.xyz. Is that the correct lhdfang.xyz? Yeah, that all looks good. This uses CNAME flattening. Should be fine. So you can see here actually with the code space, I have Defang installed as well. So yeah, just kind of a nice way to check out Defang without having to install it locally if you're running into any issues. Also just a nice way to package up a bunch of stuff. And specifically because I have this issue sometimes with DNS caches, it means I can kind of bypass that stuff. So defang, oh, I need to log in. This is another thing. I need to open my code space in VS Code Desktop for it to work. What's the TTL in Cloudflare? Definitely going to use code spaces with Defang this weekend. Sweet. Nice. Yeah, let us know how it goes. So TTL in Cloudflare, it's auto, which I forget what that defaults to, but I think it's low. So I'm going to head back. So this is my code space. And I'm going to do defang. So this is the thing, if you're using defang with code spaces, this is a thing that I haven't solved yet, but you have to open in, like you have to do this thing where you do open the code space with your local like VS Code desktop, because when you do defang login, it needs to redirect you to localhost. So defang cert generate. Let's see what happens here. Maybe I should stop this one. We've got 6 minutes. 6 minutes for DNS to propagate and to not be cached. It's cool to see you all actually deploying stuff, though. That's awesome. Out of curiosity, anyone have any requests, any samples you want to see up there? Like, I don't know, you want to know how to deploy, I don't know, something. Yeah, let me know.
Raf?
Hey.
Okay. No, I just wanted to, I thought you had frozen for a minute and I just wanted to double check. All right. I'll leave you to it.
No, I just froze IRL. Shem, code spaces is like Git plus via. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's all sort of bundled all together. Deploy Defang with MongoDB Atlas CRUD. I think we actually have, there is in our samples, let's see. Defang.io. Is this the, let me go back to this one. Defang.io. Let's see. Mongo. Yeah, so there's Go plus MongoDB Atlas. Yeah, what Surfinia Burger, what language do you want that in? Freezing arrows. Yep. Just Flask out because the other two tried earlier. Okay. Defang with MongoDB Atlas CRUD. Yeah, you know what? We could do that with TypeScript. All right. Yeah, we could do that. Let's make that happen. All right. I'm going to, or I could ask you to GitHub Defang Labs samples. If there's anything you want to see, like just submit an issue here. So if you want, I can do this one. So we'll say MongoDB Atlas TypeScript CRUD. How to deploy a CRUD app with TypeScript and MongoDB Atlas to Defang. All right. And yeah, if any of you want anything else, like just add an issue, like it's open so anyone can submit anything using Defang with an existing project. Yeah, okay, so we can do with an existing Next.js project. We can write some documentation on that. Awesome, thanks Z. Sweet. Okay, let's check in on, well, that still hasn't deployed. Yay. Oh, awesome. It deployed. Sweet. So mlhdefang.xyz ship. Oh, thought it was good to go. I might need to is it slow today or is it just me? You know, I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to check something else because I regularly have these DNS caching issues. So I've got this other tool that I use that's like a browser in the browser through a sort of video feed to do browser testing. So I'm going to check if this works when I run it there. Nope, it's still not there yet. So yeah, yeah, Shem, it might be a little slow today. Maybe too many people. I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. If you have any questions, shoot us issues on GitHub. You can go to this Defang Labs Defang and submit any issues in here. This repo is all public and open source, so you can check that all out. Yeah, thanks for coming, and thanks for deploying and sharing those links.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Raph. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and address the audience. I hope everyone had a great time. If you're looking for another Defang workshop, it's going to be a little bit more advanced tomorrow. Check out the link that I added to the screen there. And in addition, if you want to check out some really cool Defang challenges throughout Global Hack Week, definitely check out this link as well. They've got a couple of different things. It's going to kind of and this workshop is going to really help you get through a lot of those challenges. So be sure to check them out. Outside of that, once again, thanks for joining us, folks. Really appreciate it. And we hope you have a great day. Coming up next is going to be another session. So make sure you keep it locked into our Twitch channel. But outside of that, yeah, have a great one, Raph. And thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate y'all.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosendo. Thanks, everyone. Cool.